This week on The Startup Life.
They've all come through. They helped me develop the systems to be able to grow cannabis. I just enlisted people who are way smarter than I am in the world of science.
All right, Startup Nation, so let's take flight with Lynn Bravo, founder of Greene Relief. The Startup Life begins now.
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You'll never have the sacred stone.
Oh, this you crazy mother.
Hey Startup Nation, do you enjoy the startup life? Now you can let the world know with gear from the show. Choose from the label yourself, make your own look, and Making Money t-shirts to tell your story of your path of entrepreneurship. Click the link in the show notes to purchase. All right, Startup Nation, so I hope you're ready to receive some value today. We got a special guest in the building today. We have Lynn Bravo of Greene Relief. How's it going, Warren?
Everything's going really well. Thank you.
Awesome.
It's going great.
Are you ready to pour some knowledge in the Startup Nation today?
Absolutely.
Let's do it. As always, my name is Dominic Lawson. This is the Startup Life Podcast brought to you by the Binge Podcast Network. So, Warren, first things first, man, tell us about your story and your path of entrepreneurship, and tell us a little bit about Greene Relief. Sorry.
It's okay, no problem. So Greene Relief itself is the first company growing cannabis globally using aquaponics as its growing methodology. So we're using, I guess, the most sustainable form of agriculture used in the world today, using 90% less water than any other form of agriculture to grow our medical cannabis. So for us, it's growing a plant that we know we can help people get through the day, hopefully get some people off opioids and truly get into the medicinal value of what this plant can give to our clients. You know, as far as the startup, I mean, that's a story all in itself. It's a long tail, but I came out of the construction industry, a concrete contractor, a third generation family member in our business and in a family business my grandfather started in 1945. And, you know, my 28 years in the concrete floor contracting industry brought me to cannabis cultivation. So lots of things happened in between, but here I am.
Gotcha. Thank you for sharing that. And I appreciate you bringing up that part about trying to help out with that opioid epidemic, because I know here in the States, that's a serious thing that's going on. So I definitely appreciate what you're doing on that front for sure.
Both of our countries have huge problems with opioids. It's an epidemic proportion, and we want to do our part and try to help people get through the day with a natural, botanically based medicine.
Absolutely, thank you for sharing. I appreciate that. So you mentioned the business that your grandfather started, and I want to talk about that a little bit. Now you're the third generation to join the business when you were over there at Bravo Cement Contracting, and you rose to the office of president of the company. I want to ask you this. Was it hard for you to have that credibility as a leader, seeing as that you're a family member that started the company, or was it made easier, by the way, because you came up through the ranks starting from the beginning?
Well, that's it. I think that, nepotism wasn't a word that was used in my family. I had to bite, scratch, and fight for everything I ever got in life, and my father made sure that I earned my money. So he didn't, although he didn't make it put a huge amount of obstruction in my way, I still had to pay my dues. And my father always told me that you can't tell in the construction industry or concrete specifically, you can't tell people what to do unless you know how to do it yourself. So I did 10 years in the field, pouring concrete slabs, finishing concrete slabs, doing epoxy coatings, saw cutting concrete, core drilling, kind of waterproofing, you name it. I've done it in concrete, worked my way through the ranks for 10, almost 11 years before I got into management and then became president. So I couldn't have earned that position if I didn't work for it. It certainly wasn't handed to me. So it was a challenge, but a challenge that I took on and it passed on to my kids as well, because I think there's the one important lesson in life, I think, is a work ethic, and if you have that, then you nose to the grindstone. You can be anything you want, go anywhere you want. So in life, so it was an important lesson, and I'm glad he put me through it.
Got you. Thank you for sharing. I appreciate that. Now, you mentioned your dad, and I want to talk about him a little bit. Now, you have a series on Facebook, that I saw called Founder Fridays, where your customers kind of get to know you a little personally than just, the head of a corporation. And so, in one of the pieces, you talk about your dad and the lesson he taught you about being tough but fair. And so, how have you been able to achieve that balance that he taught you? And also, how influential was your dad for you as an entrepreneur?
Yeah, absolutely. My dad, my father was my mentor, and unfortunately, he passed away early in life in his late 60s after, getting out of the concrete industry, kind of semi-retirement. He'd spend a few months in Florida in the winter times and stay in the warm climate, but he couldn't quite get out of the concrete world because he'd leave my mom down there. He'd fly back for a couple of weeks, bother us in the office for a couple of weeks, then fly back down. So he was back and forth, but I miss him dearly, and I think about him every day. And he was a huge influence on my life, and his little pearls of wisdom that he instilled in me as I grew up have always stuck with me. And that balance is his way. And the other, he used to tell me that when it comes to handling people, you got to be able to kick them in the butt 1 minute and take them out for a beer the next. And his way of achieving balance in life, and that's just not with work, but that's with your home, and that's the personal time. I spend too many hours at work. Unfortunately, I'm a nose to the grindstone guy. I've always taken the bull by the horns and got things done. But my dad really placed a huge amount of value on family and work hard, play hard kind of attitude. And again, balance is really important. And he just kept driving those lessons home. And I think I've got a pretty good balance in that respect. I'm a work in progress. I love being at the office. I smile every day, but I know how important family and spending time with them and being out of the work environment is for even just your own mental health and stability. So I practice hard to make sure I balance in both of those worlds.
Got you. Thank you for sharing that, and my condolences for your father. I appreciate you sharing that story.
Thank you. Much appreciated.
No worries. No worries. So, Warren, if you would take me back a little bit, take me back to 2013, right? Contracting for 28 years, and you take a leap of faith to start Green Relief with your wife, right? Who's also the co-founder. What made you take that leap of faith? And what were the key indicators that made you emerge, to get into the emerging industry that is medical cannabis?
Well, so I guess it's not as much as a leap as you might think getting out of concrete now in cannabis.
Okay.
In the concrete world, we did very diversified projects. We did, sports complexes, car plants, the big box stores, shopping malls, all kinds of big things. But where we really focused and had a bunch of contracts throughout North America, where it was ebb and flow floors in greenhouses in the agricultural world. So about 18 years ago, my uncle in our Windsor office, myself, my cousin, we flew to Holland and we investigated these floors that were just brand new in the industry back then. So where you pour a concrete floor in a greenhouse, you put your pots and plants right on the concrete floor, then you flood that floor with a nutrient solution, and then you drain the floor from that nutrient solution. That drainage, that nutrient goes from one bay to the next through the greenhouse. And a couple of days later, you keep doing the same thing to a central fertigation tank, and the cycle just keeps continuing. So it was a way of the greenhouse guys in Europe and Holland economizing and using their production facilities more efficiently. So for us, it was an interest in pouring concrete because that's what we did, and we saw an opportunity in the agricultural market that nobody has ever done. And even today, we still go around all over North America pouring ebb and flow concrete floors in greenhouses. But that really tweaked my interest in agriculture and seeing how plants grew, and that's kind of what got me interested in the agricultural world. And from there, it was a natural extension that I'm in my mid 50s now. I was going to retire out of the concrete world. I bought this 50-acre farm, and I thought I'd put up a couple of greenhouses, throw some of these ebb and flow concrete floors in some greenhouses, do a little farm gate vegetable production facility, sell to my neighbors and friends, and keep myself busy in my years of retirement. Well, that idea was great, but it ended up morphing into what is now the world's largest aquaponic growing facility for medical cannabis. So things change, as you know, in life and in business. You have to have some flexibility. You have to be able to adapt to change, and see opportunity for where it is. And we saw, coming out of concrete, and it wasn't, my wife was kind of the brainchild of Aquaponics, but it was my business partner, Steve LeBlanc, who is a concrete restoration contractor that I have known for decades. And it was him and I together who really, built Greene Relief from the ground up, utilizing the Aquaponics platform. And we were, business associates, but we were also very good friends. And together we just kind of said, well, here's an opportunity. Here's a brand new industry, nobody's ever done before. You're only limited by your imagination. And as long as you play within the rules of the Health Canada regulations, you can be as big as you want. You can be a niche grower. You can kind of go in any direction you want as long as you play in the rules. And we just saw an opportunity in a brand new, exciting, emerging market. And so that was our leap of faith. And here we are today. So now we're growing weed.
Gotcha. Fair enough. Thank you for sharing that. And I love how you said that, like, the transition was not as rough as, I thought it was initially, because it just seems like two very distinct industries. But when you share your story, it makes a lot more sense now. So I appreciate you sharing that for sure, Warren.
It was, and the coolest part about, seeing that technology and in Holland, they're light years ahead of anywhere else in the world. Absolutely. For growing plants and flowers. And you go in these greenhouses, these 1 million square foot greenhouses that are all glass, and you just don't see people. They have they're highly automated. They have automatic material handling equipment that goes in and picks up plants, and automated packaging. And, these large facilities are running with virtually no people. So they're way ahead in the tech. And if you want to learn about that industry, certainly it's worth the drive to Holland, or worth the trip to Holland to have a look at what they do, because there's nothing else. I've never seen anything like it before.
For sure. So I want to ask you this. So, you started Greene Relief, but I want to know, what were some of those missteps maybe that took place in the early days?
Well, that's I can't count that high, but I made, we as any new business, we all make mistakes, and we try. And I think because what I came out of the construction world, which is a non-regulated industry, I call up the concrete plant and I call my guys and say, be here, we got to pour a big slab, and everybody just gets there. Everybody knows the roles of the jobs and knows the grindstone. I was kind of the master of my own destiny when it came to pouring concrete floors. Now coming into a regulated industry where I'm used to just, picking up the phone and making things happen. Now steps in Health Canada and the regulatory body. So I just can't make decisions and kind of carry on and do what I want to do, because now I have to get either permission or make sure I fit within the regulatory framework of Health Canada's guidelines for growing the plant. It's a physical security. We want to make sure we account for every gram in the facility. There's a whole bunch of things that were thrown into me that we had to develop and make very robust standard operating procedures to accommodate for all of these regulations. And it was a huge transition. And then waiting for answers was a big one, because now I put an email out to Health Canada, and here I sit for a month later, and I'm still have no response on, being able to do something I want to change in my facility and kind of do something that's different. And never mind even just the regulatory framework, but the use of aquaponics itself, because nobody had ever done it. There was a huge amount of education I had to give to our government to even be able to grow this way, because they'd never seen it. Right. We developed it. We developed the process on how to grow cannabis aquaponically, and I had to educate Health Canada on our practices to make sure that we were staying within the guidelines, and our product had that testing. We passed the European Pharmacopoeia standards with our finished product, and all of the things that kind of went with those processes. I had to fit into all of that. So there's so many challenges. But the biggest misstep at the beginning was relying on other people to help me through the initial stages of the application process. There are so many self-professed consultants and industry experts out there, and everybody's got a great story to tell. But at the end of the day, they don't produce. Listening to people, and I going with my gut more in the early stages would have helped me advance the platform faster and be more efficient kind of coming out of the gate, instead of listening to other people with regulatory experience. So I think that was my biggest downfall in the early stages. Now I use my gut. I have great members on our team here and the Greene Relief family that I have a regulatory department. I've got our quality assurance departments, all of the things that make us robust and follow all the guidelines really well. So we just carry on. Every day is a new day, and we just grind it out.
Gotcha. Thank you for sharing that. And StartupNation, what I hear in that answer sometimes that we fall victim to paralysis by analysis, right? And so sometimes, like Warren said, sometimes you just kind of have to go with your gut, because sometimes, for the most part, your gut never really, steers you in the wrong way. So I appreciate you sharing that, Warren, for sure.
Absolutely right. You are. I tell you, Dominic, that's the biggest. If I could have had any advice for anybody, just use your gut, because 99% of the time it's right. So
Absolutely. Quick follow-up question, because you talked about Health Canada and the regulations and stuff like that. And I love how you got into a space that was so new that even government wasn't ready for. So I love disruption like that for sure. But I want to ask you really quickly about, like, because here in the States, there's still a federal ban on cannabis, marijuana, weed, whatever you want to call it. So I guess I'm curious to know your philosophy on what is it about here in the States that we're not seeing about cannabis? Like, what is it, the stigma we're fighting against? Like, what are we not getting that Canada seems to get already?
I don't know. I think Canada, I guess, is a little more liberal. It's different. Our governing bodies, maybe look at things a little differently, and and maybe if the Democrats were in power down there, maybe it would be a different day too. I just don't know what that is, but I do know that your regulatory body in the States right now is disjointed. The federal regulations in Canada here put kind of they overshadow everybody. The regulations rule the industry, and everybody has to conform. We're on a very level playing field with myself and my competitors. We all have to conform to European pharmacopoeia standards for our tested products, and we all put out a very high quality product, because the feds tell us what we can and can't use on our plants from an input standpoint. So everybody plays by the same rules. Well, you don't have that in the States, and these state by state regulations, every state wants to do something a little different than what California does, or Oregon, or New Hampshire, or any of these states that are medicinal recreation. You need that government, that federal oversight, and I don't know why. I don't know why the people, your government doesn't get their heads out of their butts and figure it out, because they need to, because number one, they're losing so many multi-billions of dollars in tax revenue, which will just help for the infrastructure costs of maintaining that beautiful country you guys live in. Why wouldn't they? Why wouldn't they want to do something? Is perfectly accepted. And if they were to take a referendum in the States, I have to figure that more than 50% of the population is for it, because half your states are legal in some fashion for
Absolutely.
the consumption of cannabis. So, governments should be ruled by the people, and if 50 or 60% of the people are for it, well, it's time to get moving and time to get those regulations in place. So I'm not into American politics as much as I probably should be,
Gotcha.
but I do know that you guys should be federally regulated. Everybody on the same playing field, everybody growing under the same standards, ensuring that the people who are using this product aren't getting, fentanyl-laced product or chemicals and sprays on the plants that shouldn't be, or that are harmful for your body. Everybody cares about what they ingest in their body from a natural standpoint. Everybody wants clean product, and the way it works right now in the States, that just isn't happening.
I appreciate you sharing that. And that's an excellent point you bring up, as far as everybody kind of being under one kind of cohesive regulation or governing body when it comes to cannabis. Because you're right, some states, or some people can probably fall to the crack with something that's not healthy, or even worse, may even be harmful to their health. So I appreciate you sharing that for sure.
Thank you, Dan. No problem, Dominic.
No worries. So let me ask you this. And speaking of, the Canadian government a little bit. So Prime Minister Trudeau, and his administration, they legalized cannabis, and that took effect October 2018. Was this a good or bad thing for green relief?
It's good. Listen, just getting that federal regulation, putting some regulations behind the sale of cannabis, not making it appealing for our youth, and making sure that the community safety is paramount in legalization of this product. So, Canada's done, have they done anything perfectly? No, absolutely not. But they started a program, and they're evolving it and making it better every single day. The recreational cannabis space is, as far as I'm concerned, in Canada, is for the tourist trade, and I'll say the 1%. You're having a dinner party, you've got 10 people coming over, go to the store, buy a few grams. You want to smoke a few joints after dinner or something. That's great, but I think the medical lines is where we see the true value of this product, even long term from a monetizing standpoint in this industry. I think you have to be in medicine, because the true value for me is medicinal in this world. And when I now separate all these cannabinoids and can make a concoction of different cannabinoids to be able to help you with your migraine headaches and your back pain or any other ailment a doctor says is suitable for cannabis treatment, then I think that's just where I want to be, because I want to help people. That's our corporate motto. That's our philosophy in Green Relief, and helping people. And we're helping feed people with a donation of our fish, and feeding people with cannabis, or helping people medicinally with cannabis is a great feeling, because we get testimonials every day from our clients saying how we make them feel better, and that's the biggest charge for me. And it's just phenomenal responses.
Got you. Thank you for sharing that. So, Warren, when I look at your website and social media, and first of all, your content on social media is amazing. I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. But, it's
Sure.
true that you talk about, cannabis and the process of making it, which I think is fascinating. We'll get into that later as well. However, when I look at, the goals of Green Relief and the content, it appears to be more than just cannabis and more than the products you sell, right? So I guess my question is Green Relief less about cannabis, or is it more about earth sustainability? Because I see that as a constant theme in a lot of the content that you talk about, a lot of the kind of the personal chats you had on those things, because to me, it almost seems like, you're using the lightning rod that is cannabis to bring awareness to such a bigger goal. So where does that come from? And if you can answer that for me, I'd be appreciate it.
Okay, yeah, no, that's all good, and I get it, and I think that there aren't enough corporations in the world that Green Relief, at Green Relief here, I've established this company, and we've been following the people, planet, profit model.
I hear that.
We care about people. We absolutely care. We're environmental stewards, and we want to advance sustainable agriculture. And obviously, at the end of the day, you have to make money, because your company has to survive and move forward. And research and development costs money, and there's a lot of things. So profitability, and as much as people don't like to hear that word, it's a necessity. Money makes the world go round, unfortunately, and we all, as a corporation, we have to be profitable. So, shareholders, investors, and all of the things that go with that. So, but, I think that we wanted to establish a model to show people that you can be all three, and there aren't enough companies that are pursuing, sustainable, our cannabis competition. Sustainability is not in their mindset. We're going to have run out of fresh water in the next number of decades. We're going to be having, environmental impact, and all of the waste products that everybody puts out, the agriculture industry itself puts out into the world, with high nitrates and phosphates and gray water from hydroponics, all leaching into the ground, affecting ground source water. Our ecosystem is going to be a mess. And I don't want my great grandkids having to put up with an ecological disaster, when they're growing up. I like to think that we're going to hopefully, start a larger trend and the social responsibility. And I think you can be everything. There's a balance to be had between all of those things, and I think you can be everything now in the corporate world, and have a philosophy and give back and help people and still make money. And I think that's always been a big focus for us, and we're going to continue that model, because it makes sense. And I don't want people to think that Green Relief is so scattered that we have a big focus on aquaponics and how we grow, and then we also have a big focus on medicine and helping people in that department. We are a tight, cohesive unit. Aquaponics gives us a very clean, natural product for us to create science with. We don't have to look past any residual chemicals and pesticides and all the other crap that everybody else is putting in their products, because we don't use those things. So we have a very clean product, which is great to do science on, because we don't have to worry about separating contaminants. And doing that to make our medicine, people use our product, they're getting a very natural botanical product to consume that's going to help them. So aquaponics gets us to where we want to be on the sustainability side. It allows us to grow plants that are very clean and natural, but it's the science that's driving our business, the science, the nutraceutical, and everybody has their own opinion on pharmaceuticals. But for us to get a patented medicine, using cannabis and the combination of cannabinoids, we have to get involved into that world using a plant-based medicine. So it's the evolution of a company. The aquaponics is a means for an end for us for creating good product for the science we're going to be creating in the medicinal world.
Got you. Thank you for sharing that. And I appreciate your answer because it highlights 2 points. One, it's quite okay to be a profitable business, but also have a social awareness or social conscious about something. So I love companies that do that. But also, you bring up an excellent point, about money makes the world go round. For those of you Startup Nation who want to have that social aspect to your business, remember that you got to run the business right in order to do the social part. If you don't run the business right, then the social part goes away, and then the world kind of misses out on that. So Warren, I appreciate that answer for sure.
Yeah, and absolutely, you summed it up nicely there, and that's exactly the way people should start to be looking at their businesses, and concentrate on profitability, and the social side comes as an easy spin-off from that. It doesn't take much to do a lot of good out there in the world, I'll tell you.
I hear that. Thank you for sharing that. So, Warren, really quickly, I saw on Facebook that you guys are creating a new web series, Renegades of Change. Tell us a little bit about that, and what can we expect from that content?
Well, that's an interesting one, and I've just actually seen the first episode kind of cut together, and I had a few comments for our marketing team at Bellwether X, who actually who won us the best social media in Canada award through AdCan, which is one of our governing bodies in the advertising world here. So it was a real honor to be able to say that we're kind of leading an industry in social media, which is kind of cool. But Renegades of Change is, it's a highlight for people who are doing things differently. And it's not just the cannabis space. It's not just, it's anybody who's making an impact and adding diversity to their business, and anybody who's doing something different or is helping people, is showing some responsibility out there on the corporate side. And I think it's just good to highlight, the unsung heroes, the small guys who make differences and you don't hear about. So I think we're working towards that right now. I think the first couple episodes, maybe I think they're going to highlight, green relief and some of the things we do. And we just had some media out there with Reuters article going out to the masses and showing the trail of fish donation from the time it leaves our system right to the homeless shelters that feed the impoverished out there. And it was very, very cool. And that was the first time we've really highlighted that process, because we're not doing it for corporate kudos. We're not doing it for pat on the back saying, job well done, Green Relief, thank you. We're doing it because we want to, because we truly care. So there's a lot of things. And I think, social media, we're restricted on the marketing side of the world. We cannot advertise as a medical cannabis company.
Gotcha.
Social media helps us get the message out there that we're doing things differently, and we're the only guys in the industry now growing aquaponically, and the only differentiator between soil grows and hydroponic grows. So, we use it the best to our advantage. And as you mentioned earlier, the Founders Fridays, the Twin Tuesdays for our twin PhDs we have here, and all kinds of things we have out there. And we're really excited. The Bellwether team is a top-notch group, and they're looking for people, anybody who wants to grow their social, the social side of their business, social media side. These guys are a phone call away, and I certainly suggest that phone call, because they're a top-notch team.
Gotcha. I appreciate that. And my follow-up question actually was going to be the last question right before a break. So I'll just go right into it, because like you mentioned before, Green Relief did win best social media in Canada. And, I wanted to know, in general, what goes into a great social media campaign? Because that's kind of the way of the world now when we're talking about small businesses and people trying to scale their companies. Like, social media is kind of the way to go. So what goes into a great social media campaign, you think, Warren?
Well, I truly believe that, the tides are changing, and we have this beautiful, powerful tool called the internet, and people, busy lives. It makes us be more efficient with our time. So you get faster, clear, concise messaging out there in a very, very short period of time by doing your browsing or staying up on your favorite websites and getting your news and that type of thing. I think it's a more visual time than it ever has been in the history of mankind. I think we need to we build our social media platforms because everybody wants to see video content. Everybody wants to hear podcasts, because that's what I do when I'm driving. I turn on a podcast and hear what's going on out there in the world and listen to interesting people and go online. And I like to watch a video, and that's on there for 2 minutes. That gives me a great overview of what's happening in that specific thing I'm searching. So creating video content is a big deal. There's not enough media companies out there. A lot of them will just kind of get you out there on the big three, the Twitters, the Instagram, the Facebook. Right. They'll get you and keep fresh posts. But I think you need to create video. I think you need to put a face to a company. People hide behind their corporations like it's a mask. And, I think for transparency and accountability in an industry, I think the top line people should be shown. You should get to know them. You should know who they are, and that you should know that they're accessible. So you can email me anytime or pick up the phone and call me. You have a face to put to the phone call, and I'll always be there to answer, because that's the way we need to run this business. And social media is a big help for us, because in an industry that's our hands are tied from an advertising standpoint, people talk about our products, and that's how we garner interest and get more products out to the marketplace and help people, because of the social media chatter and that type of thing. So what runs a good campaign from a social media standpoint? I've enlisted the help of Bellwether X in Hamilton, Ontario here, that do these things for me, because it's not my world. You have to rely on somebody to help you through that. And we've picked the right team to help us navigate the social media waters. And these guys are on top of their game, and fresh content. People want to see fresh. They want to see updates. They want to see what's happening, and they want it today. And so these guys are on top of their game, and because of that, we got that award, and I'm ecstatic. But I'm not in that world, so that's not my focus. I grow cannabis, and I try to expand and work on my own business and profitability. So that's I let other people who are way smarter than I am manage that world.
Fair enough. Thank you for sharing that. So we're going to go ahead and take a quick break. How you like being on Startup Life so far, Warren?
It's a blast. There's great questions. I appreciate that. That's really, really fun.
All right, Startup Nation. So I hope you're getting great value from Warren's content, but we got to pay a few bills. Once again, my name is Dominic Lawson. You're listening to the Startup Life podcast, and it is powered by the Binge Podcast Network. Hey business owner, the Startup Life reach is growing. Wouldn't you like your business to grow with it? Reach out to us to advertise on the Startup Life. You can reach us at 901-857-4818, or you can email me at dominic@askalsolutions.com. I mean, don't get me wrong, like this is a great music to have break on, but wouldn't this break sound a lot better with the same music but your business being advertised on it? Need more content from the Startup Life, you say? You can now sign up for the Startup Life All Access Pass on the Binge Podcast Network's Patreon page. There is exclusive content written by yours truly, video content where I share even more of my business philosophies, and whatever crazy content I can think of out of that crazy head of mine. And at only $5 a month, yeah, $5 a month, this is more content for you, Startup Nation, to really get ahead of your competition. So instead of upsizing that meal at your favorite fast food joint, you can now invest in yourself on your path to entrepreneurship. Click the link in the show notes to sign up.
All right, Startup Nation, so let's continue. So Warren, one of probably the top reason why I wanted to bring you on the Startup Life is probably for nerddom, strictly for myself. It's because I find your process for growing cannabis extremely fascinating, the aquaponics system, right? Because, you know, and the facility that you do is quite fascinating because, you know, this whole like cohesive ecosystem that's all there and it's organic and healthy. But tell us, you know, Startup Nation, who are not familiar with the aquaponics system, tell them a little bit about that. And also, I love what you do with the fish after you're done with them. So tell us a little bit about all of that, if you would, please.
Sure. Yeah. So just a quick high level, what is aquaponics? So aquaponics is a symbiotic relationship between water, fish, and plants. We have a closed loop recirculating ecosystem that uses 90% less water than any other form of agriculture. So fresh water, we know in the next number of decades is going to be a very scarce resource. It's a shrinking resource. In Mississippi, in Florida, California, Arizona, freshwater resources are coming to a premium. It's going to be a ecological mess at some point in time. And we're probably going to see fresh water being traded on a commodities index at some, not in the near future. So who knows where all that's going? But that symbiotic relationship, it just allows me to use less water resources. We use LED lights, so we're also saving 35% hydro comparatively to the industry who's using high pressure sodium and metal halide lights, consuming a lot more power. So we're trying to grow more efficiently and effectively and use less resources to do it. So that's aquaponics. So, basically, we feed our fish, they create a solid waste, and through a series of mineralizing tanks, clarifying tanks, bioreactor, off-gas tank, basically water flowing from one tank to the next, converts that waste, that solid waste, into nitrates, usable plant food, all of the NPK, all of that, the nitrates, potassium, phosphorus, all broken down in a recirculating system. So my plants grow on styrofoam rafts in about 20 inches of water. Wow. And so the roots just hang in the water. They suck up all the nitrates and clean the water, returning the water back to the fish tanks. So that closed loop ecosystem, same as any freshwater lake that grows lily pads or bulrushes. Those plants are fertilized by the fish that live in that lake. And it's a series of tens of thousands of naturally forming heterotrophic and aerobic bacteria that make the system work. It's the same as a freshwater lake, and we don't have any additives. All we do is give our fish food and our plants grow. So that's the reality. So it's a very natural, clean, fresh product, no pesticides, no fungicides, no fertilizers, other than our fish feed and the solid waste created by the fish. So that's the eco side of our business, and that's how aquaponics works. It's nobody has figured it out. There's been lots of people who have tried to grow cannabis aquaponically. It took us 2.5 years and hundreds of thousands of dollars in R&D, enlisting the academic brains of all of the grandfathers in North America and abroad in British Virgin Islands, Dr. Rakosi, Dr. Savadov, all these people who commercialized aquaponics and made it a viable commercial system, have all been to my facility. They've all come through. They helped me develop the systems to be able to grow cannabis. I just enlisted people who are way smarter than I am in the world of science. I'm a concrete contractor. I'm a school of hard knocks guy. I'm not a scientist. So you always have to deal with people who are smarter than you are, and they have their academic skills in different areas, the areas that I don't know. I can run the business, but I can't run the science. That's just my reality. So I know my limitations, and that's where we go from there. So it was a lot of help by a lot of people, some universities here in Canada. It was a group effort. But what we've been able to achieve from that is something that nobody else has been able to do globally. And we're the only grower of aquaponic, a grower of cannabis aquaponically, as I said, in the world. So we want to, bring that to the States. There's some high-level discussions that are happening with a group out of Maine right now. Okay. We want to be in LA, and we're working with a group there now about bringing the first aquaponic system to the United States for cannabis growing into North Hollywood. So we're excited. We want to advance this technology. We want people to use more sustainable methods for growing, and we have to show them how to do it. And we're an open book. You come in and you have a tour, and let's advance the platform.
Gotcha. Thank you for sharing that. I think that's amazing. Tell us really quickly, Warren, about what you do with the fish after you decided to purge the fish. And actually, what determines when it's time to purge the fish? So I guess kind of a two-part follow-up, if I would.
Yeah, sure. No, the fish themselves. So I grow them to market size. So because at the end of the day, I can have, for me, it's stocking density. I need a certain amount of massive fish in a 800-gallon fish tank, or a 1,500-gallon fish tank, or a 400-gallon fish tank. I need a certain amount of fish in those tanks. So I choose to take them out at 1.5 pounds to 2 pounds, because that's what's accepted in the marketplace for filleting and for dinner to make a fish fillet. So that's, if you make it too big, harder to handle, all of those kind of things. So it doesn't matter. I can grow, if I need, 100 pounds of fish in one tank, they can be 101-pound fish or 250-pound fish. It doesn't really matter to me, because it's the output for their waste product that I need to make my plants grow. but we decided to take them out at market size because at the beginning, we didn't know what we were going to do with our fish, or we were going to be retailing them and putting them out to the retail space in the grocery stores to sell and be a fish wholesaler. But we decided to take the other route, and now we donate all of the fish that we purge from our system to a series of homeless shelters across the Greater Toronto Area through the Good Shepherd Society and the Second Harvest. So we've, to date, since our inception, have fed over 50,000 meals of high quality organic tilapia to homeless shelters to date. And we continue to do that approximately every 5 weeks. 300 pound and a half to 2 pound tilapia leave our system and are distributed through those shelters. They have a very hard time finding protein, and we're happy to help. And the cannabis crop itself allows me to be a little more philanthropic because there's enough margin in the cannabis and in the plants that we grow that allow us to be able to do this. So we want to help, and it's just another way that we our social conscience wants us to help get ourselves out there.
That's amazing, Warren. Thank you for sharing that. And, in that answer, Startup Nation, I want you to think about something really quickly, because, there's I think he's German, a very German philosopher who said, if you only know one, you know none, meaning that like you should kind of have this well-rounded scope of things. And so when Warren talks about, not only knowing his industry, but he also talks about, in addition to that, he talks about, knowing the market size for fish, for fillets and stuff like that, and serving size. That means he had to go and do that research on an entire different industry in order to be effective, especially on that social part. So, Warren, thank you so much for that answer. I appreciate that for sure.
No problem. All good.
No worries. So, let me ask you this, because it appears that one of your popular products is the Sunrise Oil. What are customers saying?
Oh, you've really done your homework. You know more about my company than I do, for God's sake. That's awesome.
I do a little bit.
Oh, yeah. Well, so this goes back to about 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, when I started making trips to Switzerland. I researched who makes the best, highest potency, cleanest CBD, THC oils in the world, and my search kept going back to a company called iFame and iLab in Switzerland, and a gentleman by the name of Daniele Schibano. So Daniele, he doesn't speak English. I don't speak German or Swiss German. He speaks a little Italian. I speak very little Italian as well. So we were able to do some communication. So over a series of about 4 trips, I just went to Switzerland. I got to know Daniele. We didn't talk business. I just wanted to know him, and he was very proud of what he's been doing, and showing me around his facility. I got to know all the people at the iFame laboratories, and we just developed a relationship that I nurtured along and became friends. So Daniele and I are like brothers now. But then we developed into this business relationship, this IP, intellectual property relationship, where he's been developing and separating cannabinoids for a very long time. Now we're at the point where, he develops new science, he transfers that to our laboratory, and we have now the purest, the highest potency CBD in the Canadian market. Not only that, from a dilution standpoint and the product we put out to the space, but our product is also 95% pure. Getting up to that level of purity, it's not an easy task. There are multiple steps you have to. Our cannabis oils are almost clear. You see through them. They're not that brownish, yellowish stuff that from the hemp plant that's out in the marketplace now, where you're getting oxidized chlorophylls and waxes and fats that are still in that product. It's low grade stuff that tastes bitter or burnt and leaves a taste in your mouth. Ours is very clean. Doesn't leave any residual taste. It just goes down and is truly an effective product. And all that science was established in Switzerland. Now we're manufacturing here in Canada, and I cannot keep the Sunrise oil on the shelves, unfortunately, and we can't make it fast enough. As we're in a growth phase. I need to grow more plants is my problem. We're trying to, we're garnering investment interest in all the things that I need, and we need the tens of millions of dollars for our expansion plans. And we've just procured another 100,000 square foot building in Hamilton, Ontario. I've got another satellite operation that's starting up. That we're under final paper in Halifax, Nova Scotia. up in Thunder Bay, Northern Ontario as well. We need to get plants in so I can have a steadier supply of our Sunrise oil for the market, because as soon as I put it out in 24 hours, it's gone. And it's sad. I'm trying to get the peaks out of our sales and try to make that line a little more steady and on an upwards kind of plateau. So it's, the Sunrise has been really popular, but it's all through, very stringent, multiple processes. It's a little more expensive than what's out there, but, there are huge differences between CBD oils. And I don't know if you know what those differences are, but, really there's 3 plants in the cannabis family, the hops. There's Cannabis sativa hemp, and which is everybody's using hemp for their CBDs. And there's Cannabis sativa non-hemp. Those are the plants with THC. Those are the plants I grow here. So hemp has, if you look at the cannabinoid structure and profile of a hemp plant, it's been industrialized and hybridized because we've been using, the stock, the fibers for manufacturing for a very long time. It's very only in the last few years that we've been using the flower to extract the oils from the hemp plant. They only have 4 to 10% CBD in them, not overly rich in CBDs, but they only have 40 to about 70 cannabinoids in them. Well, the plants I grow have about 350 cannabinoids in them with THC plants. And so THC is just one of those cannabinoids. So what we do is we separate that molecular profile of THC off the rest of the plant in its liquid form, in its oil form, through high level, scientific methodology. We separate those THC from the CBD. So we still have 349 compounds in our CBD product. So it's a more robust, full spectrum CBD, and it's got all the micros and macros that the hemp plant doesn't. So it's just a more effective medicine. So CBD oils, no matter what people tell you, there's a lot of stories out there. But if you want a very robust, high medicinal value from a CBD, you got to get it from the Cannabis sativa plant that's not hemp. And so, listen, hemp is helping people. It's controlling some seizures. It's doing some things out there medicinally, but I'm saying mine will do a better job than theirs. That's, I guess, at the end of the day, that's what I'm trying to portray.
Gotcha. For sure. And thank you for sharing that. And Startup Nation, those for you that are in Canada, you can purchase that. We have the website there in the show notes for easy access, but I want to be clear that that's for Startup Nation there in Canada. I'm not entirely sure here in the States, Startup Nation, if you can purchase that. So be weary of that.
Unfortunately, not yet. We cannot ship our CBDs or our THC products across the border until that federal recognition we talked about earlier kind of kicks in. But I would love to be able to help supply the United States with our products. But I don't even have enough, unfortunately, for the Canadian market. So Greene Relief being in the growth phase, we're growing more plants and look forward to that. 8 months from now, it's going to be a totally different story. We'll have the biomass, we'll have more product, all of the things that we need to do to grow as a company.
For sure. Thank you for sharing that. And I'm glad you mentioned that because, I want to say, it appears that it's a very interesting time for the company. One even say that it may be a growing season, if you will, forgive the pun. It was reported that in December 10 that you did require, like you mentioned earlier, the 100,000 square foot facility there in, I believe, Stony Creek, I believe.
Stony Creek.
Stony Creek. Yes. My apologies.
Stony Creek.
Yeah.
East side of Hamilton. Yeah.
For sure. And, I know you're currently in a 30,000 square foot facility, and this will allow you to scale your production from 2,800 kilograms to 17,800 kilograms, or here in the States, 6,200 pounds to 40,000 pounds. Right. And so,
correct.
Right. So, and then a few days after that, it was reported that, you took a majority equity position in Bodhi Research, to which will be renamed Greene Relief Innovation. So clearly you're in a growing phase, if you will. So I wanted to, if you would share with Startup Nation your thought process on making those moves and just your general philosophy on when it's time to kind of grow and scale the business.
Well, all of those things, you have to have both in this world. So you have to have plants, and we spend a lot of time and effort growing our aquaponic plant, getting the message out there. We are out there in the world that we are doing something different. I need biomass to make those high quality products for the nutraceutical and pharmaceutical world. So,
Right.
Green Relief is using the aquaponics and that growing methodology to grow our clean natural plants. So you have to have that. You have to have the amount of plants. You have to have more plants and more biomass to make more products. And that's kind of where we're at right now in that growth phase, because we do want to make medicine. And, we are a nutraceutical and working towards, say, pharmaceutical down the line, making that solid medicine innovations. And Bodhi Research is just one of those acquisitions that we made that made sense because, Dr. Leelong Jha, who's a concussion specialist, global. He treated Sidney Crosby for his concussion, and he's got a lot in the concussion research world, a lot of research, and he's already gone through two phases of clinical trials for a nutraceutical concussion medication to help treat the symptoms of concussions, and so we see the value in that for medicine, and we can make that with our CBD and our very clean natural plants. And so we're going to help him get through phase 3 and get a nutraceutical out there to the marketplace that's going to help you with managing some of your pain from concussions or other pain. And we have he's got 8 or 10 other indications in the pipeline as well for different ailments and helping people with, as I say, different ailments. So we're looking forward to expanding that research and pushing that ahead. And for us, as I said, we want to help. We want to help you be able to get through the day with a natural, botanically based product, nutraceutical or pharmaceutical, just like they did, 100 years ago in healing people with plants. I think you can do that effectively. And I just, as we said earlier, the opioid crisis is a mess. It's easy to get a prescription and, mask your problems. But I think we can do more than that with this plant. And I think the sky's the limit on where the science is going to go with this. We're so excited about that world and looking forward to all the R&D and expanding that to be able to help more people with specific ailments.
Awesome stuff. Awesome stuff. Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that. Now, I see that there's been a few changes there in the C-suite at Green Relief. I saw you brought on Andrew Pegg as CFO, and also you have actually stepped down as CEO and replaced John Durfee as interim CEO. So what led to the decision for you to step down, and what's next for you?
Well, I'm not stepping down. Isn't what I'd call. I'm not going anywhere. I've taken the role as president of the company. Okay. I've always said from day one, I'm a humble concrete contractor. I'm not a multi-million or billion-dollar CEO.
I hear that.
It's not in the cards. It's for me navigating the world of finance and IPOs and all of the other things and large corporate structure and corporate governance and all of the things that we need to be suited optically for the public space. Listen, I can get done and I can do and I can manage quite well, but some things are just better left for people who have those experience. And that's what John brings to the table. He's got that more larger corporate world experience, a lot more insight into the world of finance and dealing with financial institutions, investors, and all of those other things. I want to stay focused on advancing the Green Relief platform with aquaponics and science and medicine, because that's what I know and that's my strong suit. So, I'm not out of the picture. I'm not going anywhere. All is well in the world, and these are changes that were necessary to take our company to the next level. And I think I'd be selfish to say that I'm everything to everybody and I can do everything. And we all should know our limitations, and we all should know that there's a time to, earlier in the conversation, about some flexibility and be able to move and be able to navigate in different directions. And I feel that that's one of my strong suits, and it's just that time has come.
Awesome stuff. At Startup Nation, that is the epitome of an amazing entrepreneur. Somebody who understands that, like, look, that's not my lane. So it's better to find somebody who is in that lane to really move the company forward. So, Warren, I appreciate that answer more than you know.
Thank you. No, it's our reality.
For sure. So really quickly, there in Canada, the government has announced that it will start to expedite processing of pardons for people who have minor offenses when it comes to cannabis and stuff like that. And there are states here in the U.S. who are kind of considering, that kind of decriminalization of cannabis, if you will. Do you agree with this, or maybe not so much?
Oh, absolutely agree. It's such a cost and a burden to the correctional services of both your country and ours.
Absolutely.
Who should be going to jail for having some cannabis on them? Again, a natural plant based medicine, or even for recreation use. Listen, it's just being responsible. If you're high, don't drive. If you're feeling altered, you use common sense. This product should be able to be utilized on a more with more regularity in the States and in Canada. And when it comes to its consumption, as I say, common sense should rule the day. So that about sums up that. But I think that there's the recreational side kind of went off on a tangent there. So I
Oh,
apologize for
no,
that.
no worries, no worries. No, I appreciate
But
the content for sure. No,
so
that's amazing.
that's it. Yeah.
So, really quickly, tell us about the husband-wife dynamic, of you and Lynn, your wife, Lynn Bravo. Tell us about that dynamic when building a business a little bit, because we have a lot of entrepreneurs, including myself, that started businesses with their spouse. So tell us a little bit about, those challenges and triumphs that you kind of experience when
Oh
there's a
yeah.
husband-wife team, for sure.
Absolutely, it's amazing, and it takes a truly understanding woman to put up with anybody who's self-employed or is an entrepreneur, because you're married to your wife, you're married to your work, and as I said earlier in the interview about the balance, trying to strike that balance, and when you're starting something up, the hours that I put in, and still do put the hours in, but when you have somebody who's understanding and supportive on the other side, and you try to find that balance, and they know, your spouse knows that you're trying to spend as much time with them and quality time as you can.
Right.
But things are busy now, but hopefully in 5 years they're not going to be as busy, and you can take that time and maybe do a little more traveling, and a little closer family time, and nurture that relationship and carry on. But that it's Lynn is a trooper. She has been phenomenal through this whole process, allowing me the flexibility, knowing that it's a greater good that we're achieving out there. We're helping people. She's on board. She's a landscape architect, and she's been helping with the social media side of our business, and helping with some ironing out some of the processes, and just a great people person. And so she brings a lot of value to the operation, especially in the early stages, and just family support. She's just an amazing woman, and she's the one who gave us the idea about aquaponics in the first place, in the world of plants and architecture. So she got us going, and Steve and I took the bull by the horns and got to where we are today. So it's been great. It's been a really fun ride. She's extremely supportive, and she smiles every day, and knows I'll be home for dinner at some point.
For sure. For sure. Thank you for sharing that. And Startup Nation, Lynn actually has a podcast, Deadset on Living, and I have the link there in the show notes for easy access for you to check out. Amazing content for sure.
Oh, you've really done your. I tell you, that's the most prepared I've ever heard from an interview standpoint. I thank you for that. That's amazing.
No worries, no worries. Well, don't let this next one blow your mind. So, as you know, the Startup Life is based here in Memphis, Tennessee. So we consider ourselves the home of blues and rock and roll and everything in between, right? So I noticed in one of your Founders Friday segments that you've started learning blues guitar a little bit.
There
So
you go.
I guess I just want to know how that's been going.
Well, unfortunately, as I am nose of the grindstone, and I am a little business focused right now,
Gotcha.
It's not going so well. So I naturally don't have any soul. So playing the guitar for me has been a lot of work. But listening to Muddy Waters and BB King, and yes, Stevie Ray Vaughan, one of my favorites as well, and
Gotcha,
and
for sure.
just an amazing. There's so much soul and talent, and listen, I can play the blues scales, and I maybe can play a little more technical, and it's hard for me to improvise as much as I'd like to, but that's where I want to be. I got to use more of that creative side of my life, and I'm trying to achieve that again, more personal balance, and the guitar is kind of helping me get there, and lots of times I'll just I'll flip on the stereo and put something on, and figure out what key they're playing in, and just kind of jam away. And I'm not great, but I love it, and it's a de-stressor. So that which doesn't kill you makes you stronger, so they say, and guitar is one of those things for me.
Gotcha. I appreciate you sharing that. So I'll tell you this, Warren, if you ever feel like you need a little inspiration for that creativity, come on down to Memphis, come to Beale Street. You'll definitely get inspired for sure.
Listen, I love Memphis. I love Beale Street. I've been there a few times, and New Orleans and Austin, Texas. And I tell you, musical mecca, and you're very fortunate to be there. So certainly got to get down there more.
For sure. Thank you for sharing that. So, Warren, I believe all entrepreneurs have a superpower. What's yours and why?
Oh, that's a good one. What is it? What is my superpower? I think if I had to say, I don't know if intuition is one or not, but okay. I would say that would be mine. I don't need to have the strength of 10 men, and I don't need to be able to swim underwater forever and all that kind of fun stuff. But gotcha. If I had to say I had a power, it would be my gut and reading people and reading situations. I think I'm pretty adept at doing that, and I've nurtured that over a long period of time. You have to have a pretty thick skin and be able to read people in the construction world pretty well. So I think that's where my talent has been nurtured over the years. And again, something my father instilled in me at a very young age. So all is good. So that's my superpower.
Absolutely. I would tend to agree with you, because somebody who, decided to kind of get in the cannabis space back in 2013, especially at that point in time, not too early, not too late, but just right. I actually would have to agree with you that intuition is an amazing superpower that you have, Warren, for sure.
Cool. Sure. Thank you for that. You're making me blush. And I don't like talking about myself that often, sir.
Gotcha. So, right before we ask the last question, I just want to say thank you so much, Warren, for coming on the Startup Life podcast, brought to you by the Binge Podcast Network. So, Warren, last question, man. I'm going to hand my mic over to you, and you're going to talk to Startup Nation. There's an entrepreneur out there who's afraid to start their company. Tell them why they should go ahead and just take the leap and move forward.
Without question. So, my advice to anybody is just be prepared to put the miles in. If you have the ethic and the drive and the vision, and you know where you want to be in 1 month, 6 months, 1 year, 5 years, and you can get there. You just don't stop. Keep your nose at the grindstone. As they say, put the hours in, make the right connections. People are out there that want to help you and make you successful and take advantage of all that. Go with your gut and go with the gut and drive yourself, and you can be anything you want to be. And I like to think that that's where I've come from and where I continue to go every day.
Awesome stuff. So that's going to conclude our session on the Startup Life, Warren. Did you enjoy being on the show?
It was amazing, Dominic. I had a great time, and I really thank you. You're an amazing host and a pleasure to talk to. Thank you for that.
No worries. All right, Startup Nation.
So here's my final take. I am so glad we got Warren Bravo on the show. Let me tell you why. Startup Nation, on this path of entrepreneurship, you're trying to start up, you're trying to make this amazing thing called your company to really grow your idea in your business, right? However, when you get to that 10, 15, 20 year mark, you start to think about other questions on your path to entrepreneurship. What would be my legacy? What would be the legacy of my company? And Warren Bravo gets that. When you think about green relief up there in Toronto, true enough, you think about growing cannabis and this, that, and the other. However, what he's also shown the world is that it's not just about growing cannabis, but the system of aquaponics can be used to grow other self-sustaining models when it comes to creating more produce and creating more green efficient ways of producing things for society. And so when I think about Warren Bravo and his wife Lynn and what they're doing at Green Relief, it's much bigger than cannabis, it's much bigger than a company, and it's all about making an impact on the world. If you want to let us know what you think about the show, have an idea for a show topic, or like to advertise on our show, please send us a message on the Startup Life Podcast Facebook page. And while you are there, like and follow our page as well. It's a way for us to engage with you, Startup Nation, and really grow our community. The link is here in the show notes. Subscribe to the show, as it can now be heard on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher Radio, Spotify, or whatever your favorite platform to get your podcast on. If you are listening on Apple Podcasts and you find our content valuable, please give us a 5-star rating, as it will help us climb the charts and help more people find our show. Also, don't forget to sign up for the Startup Life All Access Pass to get exclusive content. This is exclusively on the Binge Podcast Network's Patreon page. And hey, if you have an idea, be about that life. The Startup Life. So if you're still here, you're probably looking for some extra content, huh? Well, wait no further.
So there are AI-based tools that can harvest hundreds of millions of websites every night. They troll all the pages. They use something called natural language processing and natural language understanding, NLP and NLU, which is a subfield of AI, to actually understand the meaning of the words on the web page. And then they use also AI to find which of all the insights are actually worth to report.
So Startup Nation, for this episode, we stay international. We move from Toronto to Sweden with Magnus Unimir, who is an artificial intelligence and marketing specialist. So if you want to get this great episode, make sure you subscribe to the Startup Life podcast on any of your major podcast platforms. So that way, when we upload that episode, it will be right there waiting for you. But in the meantime, Startup Nation, you got a company to grow.